Hi, Alex here, just popping in at the start of the episode to let you know that this episode does contain discussions surrounding sexual assault and abuse due to the nature of the film Pleasure, which we discuss. So, listener discretion is advised. Thank you. Hello, and welcome to the Film Angle Podcast. I'm Alex.
And I'm Kris.
And today we're back to talk about a whole bunch of films that we've been catching up on recently. Kris, please tell me, what have you been watching in the last couple of weeks?
Well, actually, we've been kind of treated to a lot of big releases out the last couple of weeks. One of the big highlights for me that I caught up with was Elvis. So, you a big fan of Baz Luhrmann, Alex? Have you seen any of his films?
I have seen the Great Gatsby, and I've seen Romeo and Juliet. I watched a good chunk of his TV show. I can't remember. It was all about like the start of R&B and stuff like that. At the time, it was like the
Yes.
most expensive TV show ever made. I don't remember finishing it, but I do like his like everything.
Excess.
Yeah, like maximalism to the extreme kind of style, and I really want to see Elvis. I just haven't gotten around to it. I was between Elvis and the Black Phone this weekend, and I know you got to see both, but I only got to
Hard
see one of
choice.
them. But yeah, I really, I do like Elvis's music. Some fond memories from my youth of my dad playing it in the car and stuff like that. Not like as big as some other artists in kind of my dad's music history and like
Yeah.
mine. But definitely a little something there where I'm kind of like I'm intrigued to watch this film and also intrigued to just see it go full blown style.
Yeah, I didn't picture your dad as an Elvis kind of guy. I thought he would have been like the generation past that would have.
Well, he was definitely more of like a Queen, Erasure. Like we would definitely listen to more of that stuff. But every now and then he'd chuck on Elvis's greatest hits, and we'd all have like a bit of a sing along in the back of the car. We had a lot of long car journeys when we had to come back. When we used to go from Germany to the UK, and we used to do that like twice a year sometimes. And obviously you've got the trip both ways. So there was a lot of car journeys that needed some kind of time to listen to stuff.
I'm just trying to picture all of you singing like an Elvis song in the back of the car. I must have sounded like just a bunch of strangled cats. No offense, but
Oh yeah, yeah. There's many a time that I'm sure everybody was glad there were windows.
but anyway, Elvis. I mean, Baz doesn't make a lot of movies. Like you're saying, he made that TV show recently, but I think you said the last movie he made was The Great Gatsby, which was 9 years ago, which I can't believe because I was
Wow.
obsessed about that movie then. I mean, I think I went to see that about 3 or 4 times in the cinema.
Oh
So
wow, you were
I,
you were that obsessed. Do you know, I remember being really obsessed with the soundtrack before the film came
yes,
out, and I thought the soundtrack was amazing, and I was like, "This is going to be the greatest film ever." And then I watched it, and I was a little bit disappointed by The Great Gatsby. I didn't really like it that much.
oh man, I get it. Like anyone who's seen any of Baz's movies will know that like he is style and more style and a bit of glitter just thrown in, in the mix too. But that's just definably him. And his movies are like watching a pop up book come to life. I think like
Mm.
the Gatsby one is especially like true in that sense. Some people think it's like over the top, and I completely get it. But he just I think he manages to always bring it back to the characters, and I think in Gatsby, he definitely did that, where he didn't lose essence of who Gatsby was as a character, and he managed to marry the two really well. And I think the same is really true again in Elvis. Yeah, I was pretty nervous. Like, did you see like the trailer came in? The trailer was on every time I went to the cinema. The Elvis trailer came on, and I kind of got more and more nervous every time I was watching it. I don't know. What did you think of it?
I thought this looks fun, but this also looks very much just like another standard biopic. But there was something that caught me, and I was like, I really want to see this film, even though like biopics don't always do it for me. I think ever since Walk Hard, the Dewey Cox story, where they parodied
Yeah.
it, like biopics have been like completely ruined for me. But there was
Yeah,
just something about this, like the trailer just like got me excited, and I think maybe that is just the over the top style, and it makes you go, you know. And from all accounts, and you can probably tell me if I'm wrong, the trailer already gives off like a small percent of how stylish the film actually is.
yeah. I think you know that's not going to be your standard like birth to death sort of story. Like I think, like you said, Walk the Line, which obviously Walk Hard was a parody of that movie specifically, but Walk the Line was sort of like the last movie to get away with that. I think that movie does it really well. But I think we've done so many of those type of movies where it's just a straight up almost like a Wikipedia account of someone's life. So I don't think there's anyone else that could have gotten away with doing an Elvis story. I think Baz is the perfect choice because, you know, who better to do a story about someone who's so excessive in nature than a director who's got an excessive sort of sensibility.
Yeah.
And I think the genius of casting Austin Butler is probably just next level as well. And what's really kind of given this movie its word of mouth. He doesn't just capture the essence of Elvis. He is simply just like this incredible manifestation and reincarnation of Elvis himself. It's like when the movie actually takes its time to slow down, and it does do that sometimes. I know it's hard to believe in a Baz Luhrmann movie, but it when it gives Butler those moments to really reflect and interact with Elvis's sort of melancholy nature, like there is like a sadness to Elvis, and whenever Austin kind of leans into that, it's you get this. I kind of got chills watching it. It's an Oscar worthy performance where I just didn't feel like I was watching, you know, that sort of like prosthetic or like a Gary Oldman like performance where it's like it's very showy and stagey. It just felt more very natural, and I was watching Elvis on the screen. So I mean, that's worth the price of the ticket alone, I think.
Yeah, he's definitely being like heralded as an up and coming actor right now, and I'm excited to see him. I don't know what I've seen him in before, apart from he played a very small part in Once Upon a Time in America. Sorry,
Yeah,
Once Upon a
Tex.
Time in Hollywood, the
Yes, yeah,
Quentin Tarantino film, and then I think he also played a very small role in one of Kevin Smith's films, Yoga Hosers. That's it, which is kind of
yes,
like
the one
uh,
with Lily Rose Depp in it and
yes,
his
yeah,
daughter.
yeah, which is kind of like more of a bit of a weird kind of teen skewed stoner comedy, kind of just lots of crazy stuff going on, and he plays a very small role. But yeah, that's I think that's all I've seen him in. But he's about to be in Dune Part Two.
Yes, yeah, he's playing the Baron's nephew, which is actually a really like juicy role to kind of give him for part two. And I think he really because I've read the book of Dune, and I think he really suits that role. So I'm looking forward to seeing him in that. He's definitely got a big career ahead of him. Certainly after watching this movie, I will say that the style and the framing of the story by choosing to have it told from Colonel Tom Parker's perspective at the beginning, it definitely catches you sort of off guard in the beginning, but once it settles you in and you adjust, you can't help but be won over by the style of this movie. It's very like it's non-stop. I mean, it's such a long movie. It's nearly 3 hours, but it never felt like that, which that was my biggest reservation going in. And yeah, I was bowled over by it. I had a really great time. I know some people didn't enjoy the movie as much, but yeah, I would definitely recommend most people check it out because you know a lot of people I know are really digging this at the minute. So yeah, please
Interesting.
check out
Yeah,
Elvis.
I'm very intrigued, and like even if I end up not liking it, which I think there's definitely a possibility
Of course.
that from the discourse I've heard, definitely a possibility that one may not like it.
If I
But
like
it
it,
just
Alex, you won't
it
like it.
just looks like a fun experience either way. So
Yeah.
yeah, no, I look forward to it. Can you tell us more about Tom Hanks's performance? It's been very kind of it's like very much in the conversation right now.
Yeah, it's certainly a love or hate performance. Funny enough, though, when I watched the trailer, that was like my biggest worry about the movie. I turned like every time I would watch it in the cinema with my partner Lauren, I would turn over to her and I would be like, that performance just seems so like misjudged. But actually, when you watch it in the movie, it's really, really good, and it's a kind of a highlight because he definitely leans in. It almost leans into cartoonishness, but I think Tom Hanks judges it just right. Where and it's also a perspective we don't really see. I don't know. Did you know much about the whole Tom Parker story kind of going into this? Like, I know you haven't seen it yet, but do you know much about him?
Not really. I just know that he's not a very well liked man in the history of Elvis.
Yeah, I knew he like financially sort of manipulated him, but if this movie is true, I mean, I need to do my history a little bit more, but if it's true, like the manipulation that goes on for like all, it's not just a little portion of Elvis's career; it's his whole career. It's sort of manipulation of his of Elvis's parents, their lack of education, selling them the dream, and he ultimately takes 50% of Elvis's cut for his whole career, and then completely prevents him from. He never did a world tour. I didn't even know Elvis didn't travel outside of the country. He was never allowed to do this because Tom Parker manipulated him, and
Wow.
the movie portrays it like Tom Parker didn't want to actually leave the country, so he kept that a secret because he wasn't actually an American citizen, so he couldn't leave the country. So he kept making up lies to Elvis as to why they couldn't go on a world tour.
Wow.
So yeah, it's crazy.
So
But
does that
and
mean
Tom
like
Hanks,
the only time Elvis went anywhere outside of the States was military service?
well, yeah, because that would have been non performance related. Anything that was to do with the Elvis brand would have had Tom Parker, and the sidelines the whole time. So wherever Tom couldn't go, Elvis couldn't go, I suppose.
Yeah. I actually I have an interesting connection to Elvis. Very, very
I
slight.
thought you were going to
Very,
say Tom Parker
very,
there.
very, very slight connection. I wonder if this scene will pop up in the movie. Probably not, but I'll eagerly await it. But so when my granddad did his military service, he was in the Bavarian Alps in Germany, and
Mm,
like a lodge bar that they used to go to semi regularly. Um, they kind of went there to grab a drink, but it was kind of shut down because uh, somebody was inside, and it was very much a private thing. And because the lodge owner knew my granddad and the people he was with, he was like, "Oh, just we'll put you in a back room. We'll put you in a back room, and you can have a drink there." And it was very much suspected that the person in the lodge was Elvis, and that's why nobody else was kind of allowed in at the time.
great story. But is he like 99% sure?
Yeah, pretty much.
Oh man. But it's so like that's such a tease though. You're so close to a person like that, and you're that's a cool story though. I mean,
Is that scene in the film?
that actually they make that the sort of like the big third act reveal. So yeah, did definitely show up. No, it doesn't turn up in the movie, Alex, unfortunately. There's a
Ah, that's a
lot that goes
shame.
on in this movie, but not that bit.
Ah, they must be on the cutting room floor somewhere.
But yeah, check out Elvis. I really liked it.
Nice one. Nice one. Shall we talk about Pleasure, the movie, which released on Mubi the other week? The movie that released on Mubi.
Yeah.
Um, a Swedish film that did very well in Sundance, I think, last year, and then kind of went on the festival circuit for a bit, and now has had its wide release. Directed by Ninja Thyberg and
Yeah.
starring Sophia Capel. It kind of follows, like it's very much a Star is Born. Showgirls esque enter the industry and kind of witness the horrors surrounding it, but the industry in this case is porn. It's the porn industry. So it's a very kind of uh, quite a heavy film at times. As
Look,
we
it's a great
follow,
it's a nice one to sit down with the family.
yeah, not family friendly at all. Actually, yeah, it follows a 20-year-old Bella Cherry as she leaves her home country of Sweden and goes to LA and wants to become the next big porn star and kind of finds the relatively small highs of the industry and a lot of big lows and kind of scary things that happen along the way. What did you
Yeah.
think of the film, Chris?
Well, I really liked the movie as a whole. I felt that if you took the novelty away of it being set in the porn industry, and getting like a background canvas of an industry that we don't really usually see on film because we don't. What you're kind of left with, I felt, was kind of your standard girl with a dream movie. Not to say that that's done badly, but that is done well here. And while Sophia Coppola's performance, who plays Bella, is very strong, I never really believed her as someone who really wanted or had any enthusiasm in the industry to move all the way from Europe, from Sweden, and begin a new life in LA. She just mostly looks sort of bored or miserable. I don't know, not exactly her dream job. I kind of found that part of the movie hard to buy into in the beginning, but I did ultimately fall into it after a while. I just struggled at the sort of first act.
I disagree. I thought that Sophia Coppola's performance was actually kind of the thing kind of holding the film together, because it very much is like, look at this part of the industry, look at that part of the industry. And I don't know if you've ever watched, there was a film called Hot Girls Wanted, and then a Netflix show called Hot Girls Wanted Turned On,
No,
I
I haven't.
think,
No.
which kind of was a documentary series about the porn industry. And the Netflix TV docu-series followed girls who were just entering it, very much in the
Mm.
same place that Bella Cherry is at the start of the film, and it very much plays out those same beats. So there's clearly a big element of truth to what we're seeing on screen, because we've seen it in documentary form as well. So I mean,
Okay.
if you didn't want to just see a fictionalized version of it, very much check out that TV show. Very
Okay.
interesting. But like, obviously that's different here. But I think there's something about her that is clearly, she wants something that she is well known for, that she is good at and aspires to. But I think there's also, like, you get like a hint when she speaks to her mum on the phone. There's a couple of instances throughout the film that there's like a
Yeah.
slight rebellious side to it as well. And she seems like the kind of person who's trying everything in terms of jobs. Like, she's tried other things. She's always on a whim. She's always just like randomly doing stuff, and that's her kind of character. But it goes into a lot of kind of power dynamics, and you know, the kind of differences in the way that like women who are behind the camera handle kind of sensitivity and intimacy compared to men. And yeah, I
Yes.
mean, it's very, if you are sensitive to, you know, rape and abuse, and you know, the kind of hardcore parts of this film are very difficult to watch. And it very much was yeah, it was quite a difficult watch at times, is what I'm trying to say, when you have to
Yeah.
see some of the stuff that she goes through in order to kind of acquire a bigger star power within the industry.
Yeah, the scene that you're talking about in particular is a very difficult watch. You kind of just want it to end, and that's, well, that's the power of the film, of cinema, is that you're feeling what the character is feeling, and I did feel that in that moment was where you're essentially just watching a rape. But the
Yeah,
thing is that it's because it's a industry standard, or she doesn't know we don't even know what the standard is, because every interaction, every single set or studio that she goes to, or it's a completely different experience. So she has like no sort of gauge as to reference as what is normal and what's not. Am I
yeah,
being raped? Am I, or am I not? And like,
yeah.
or are these guys just pretending to be nurturing off camera so that I feel that I'm not being raped? It's completely, it's bizarre.
Yeah, it very much blurs the lines of, especially in that scene, of like what's consensual and what's not. And
Mm,
yeah, I think it's a very interesting film, and I think it maybe loses itself a little bit in the final moments, where you know, it kind of gets a bit too on the nose, the kind of hammering home what the theme is, and you know, the kind of like being the masculine world, and its kind of influence on the porn industry, and that the negativity surrounding that kind of toxic masculinity. I think it may
yeah,
be bit cheesy at the end, but for the most part, I was kind of enthralled by this film.
yeah,
Very much worth a watch, and for a first time actress, Sophia Coppola is incredible. I'd like, you wouldn't know that this was her first time acting, and
no, I
quite
will,
a
I will
film
agree with that.
to start with, because like you really do have to literally bear everything and just be like, this is me on the screen, feeling feeling all the emotions, and also kind of being in some
Yeah,
pretty difficult places.
similar to sort of last year's movie Titan, where that was that actress's, I forget her name, it was that actress's first sort of debut role, and that's another performance that you're really like, are you sure you want to be doing this? This is going to be on screen for the rest of your life. But yeah, sure, certainly Sophia Coppola's performance reminded me of that. I don't want to be down on the movie though, Alex. Like honestly, I did like it. Like what I did love about the movie was I like the ambiguity in terms of the morality of the industry. Like it's almost like a compilation of like anthology short films. It's like these are the heroes and the villains here. Every job Bella goes to is like I said, completely different, and it's horrible because everyone knows everyone. And
Yeah,
it's a small world in this industry. It's a small town. At the end of the day, if Bella is uncomfortable with the situation, she's forced to endure and see it the way through as there's a risk of almost being blacklisted if she doesn't go all the way through it. So it's like everything's a risk because like I'm not enjoying this, but if I don't do it, then this could be the end right here, right now. It's very blurred as to who is professional and who's basically just pimping you out.
yeah,
And the more over time that Bella is partaking in these acts, the more that she's starting to become less empathetic, like she is with other people at the beginning of the story. Her sort of soul begins to erode over time, and she becomes a bit of a shell of herself. So I did find that aspect of the story quite powerful.
yeah, yeah, definitely, definitely. And it's worth noting as well that they actually worked with a lot of like actual industry people, like the
Mm,
Spiegler's girls. I think it was Spiegler.
okay.
That's a real thing apparently. There's a lot of real porn stars and kind of directors that are actually used in the film. And I actually read that a lot of them actually didn't like the film, so maybe that's worth noting as well. Maybe because maybe it is too close to life, or maybe it didn't actually kind of showcase the porn industry in the way that it actually is. Who knows? But we'll leave that up to the audience.
So we both caught up with the Black Phone over the weekend, and yeah, fair to say, if you've got a serial killer movie set in the 70s starring Ethan Hawke, I mean, Alex and I are probably going to turn up to it.
Yeah, 100%, 100%. Directed by Scott Derrickson and written by C. Robert Cargill, who also did Sinister together and
Mhm.
the first Doctor Strange movie, which I think is one of the most underrated films in the Marvel universe. I really like that film. But this is so after creative differences with Marvel, um, Sam Raimi obviously went on to direct the second Doctor Strange film, and Scott Derrickson went on to direct the Black Phone. And I think the world is better for it, don't you think?
Yeah, I really liked it. I thought it was a really solid movie. I don't think it changes the world. I don't think it's a movie that changes the world necessarily, but it's a really good sort of mood piece for like spend an hour and a half in the cinema. And Ethan Hawke definitely commands your attention when he's on screen.
See, I think I'm a lot more positive on this one than you, Chris. I absolutely bloomin' love this film. I thought it was excellent from start to finish. I think it sets the tone really well in that first act. There's a lot of attention to detail to the 70s setting, and even just the opening credits kind of really set your mind back to that kind of. Obviously, we weren't around in the 70s, but both our partners love true crime, and I'm sure you've seen hundreds of documentary films and TV shows about kind of serial killers and kidnappers. It seemed that like that was all that was happening in the 70s in the States.
Yes,
Like it was
yes,
very much a bit of a scary time because obviously people could get away with more things then than they could now. And
yeah,
like it really sets up this tone that puts you into that sense of unease and like, oh, everybody's at risk. And like is almost like a pandemic of kidnappings and serial killers, and you just like it really is uncomfortable, and I think that maybe that's where the film isn't horror in the normal sense. Like obviously some horrific things happen in the film, but the scares aren't like it's not the scariest film in the world. Maybe that's easy to say as somebody who doesn't have kids and isn't scared of you know a child getting
Yeah,
kidnapped just yet, or in the same way that maybe a mother or a father would be scared of a child being kidnapped. But its scares come from atmosphere, and then the rest are jump scares, which obviously is you know kind of somewhat cheap. But I think they get the atmosphere right. They get the
yeah,
atmosphere so well. Um, you mentioned Ethan Hawke obviously plays the grabber, who's our big bad, but
yes, the
it's
grabber.
it's
Yeah,
it's quite a it's quite a quiet performance, I think, from Ethan Hawke. He definitely knows that it's not his film, and in fact, you I don't even think you see his full face at any time during the film. It's all the mask that he wears allows it to be like sometimes it's just covering his mouth, sometimes it's just
yeah.
covering his eyes, and
I think you do when he's like actually grabbing the children, but like he's always he's
oh
got
yeah.
full face of paint or he's got like sunglasses on. Yeah, like you say he's never completely unveiled in this
And
movie.
I think it's good because I think he understands his role in this film. He isn't the big showy star of it as much as he's on the
No.
poster and stuff like that. He's the boogeyman. The stars of of the film are actually the kids. And oh my god,
Yeah,
Mason Thames and Madeline McGraw, who play Finney and Gwen, brother and sister. Holy shit, they're good. Like
yeah.
so good.
They are
Um
great child performances. Yeah.
and considering the stuff that happens in the film, like it's a very violent film. Not just from you know the horrors of the kidnapping and subsequent kind of like trying to escape, but like there's fights between kids at the start of the film that are absolutely brutal, and it doesn't shy away from the violence in the world, as well as kind of violence from their own father, who is an alcoholic mess due to the death of their mother, and why that is, and you know, and
Mm,
it's worth mentioning as well. There's also well, there's a couple of supernatural elements. One, Gwen receives visions of either you know present day or slight present to future kind of stuff happening that kind of relates into helping Finney during the film. And then obviously Finney receives calls within his cell, which is a basement from the kids that have essentially been murdered by the grabber. That
yeah.
and it's worth saying as well. If you don't know anything about this film, go and see it before you listen to us talk about it. And definitely don't watch the trailer. Did you watch the trailer for this, Chris?
Well, I had to because every time I went to the cinema, it would show.
Oh man,
So,
I
yeah,
I swear they released the trailer like a year ago. Like it felt like it's been coming out for quite a while. Like the first initial
yeah.
trailer, and I remember watching it going like, "This looks like a really good film," but I feel like I've seen way too much, and I just literally blanked it every time from then on that it popped up in the cinema. So yeah, I've maybe had a year away from it, and I think that was the best thing to do because the trailer really does give away hell of a lot.
It is a
Um,
breakdown of the movie, really, isn't it?
it really is. It really is. So I actually said to my fiance Em, I was just like, "You're gonna like this film. I'm pretty sure. Like it looks like up your street. Um, don't watch trailer." And every time it came on an advert, I was like, close your eyes, cover your ears, don't." And she ended up absolutely loving it, having not known anything about it other than it was like a kidnapping horror film with Ethan Hawke in it. You know, yeah, she
Yeah.
absolutely loved it.
Well, I was going to say with Hawk's performance, like it feels like a movie that's almost completely led by children, because there's something about his performance that's very childlike,
Yeah,
um, in sort of a way, and also with her father, like the father, like I said, he's a bit of a mess, and there's almost like a sort of childish sense of patheticness to him. Um, so it feels like a movie that's hasn't got a single adult in it, and you're so right. Those child performances are incredible. I forget who the young girl's name is again.
so Madeline McGraw is the actress and Gwen is the character.
So the character Gwen, I think I thought that performance was incredible. There's this certain scene where her father's basically beating her in the kitchen. He's whacking her repeatedly with a what was it, with a belt or a rod,
Yeah,
and
really difficult
I
scene.
difficult to watch because I haven't seen a child cry that well on camera so realistically in years. It was scary good.
Yeah, yeah. I was actually listening to a podcast today where they were actually interviewing the director and the writer about it, and they were really kind of praising her performance, especially in that moment. Because I was like, those are real tears, but no, she very much is just a good actress. And I think they were talking about a particular line reading where she's talking about her dreams are just dreams and how it's kind of rebellious, and it kind of shocked it, like one of the ways she says it after saying it multiple times just
Mm.
really like shocked everybody on set, and apparently you can see that reaction within the father figure. They kept that take in, so yeah, clearly a mega actress to come. I'm sure, like incredible performance.
Yeah, and I'm with you though, like the aesthetic of the 70s. Like I think the 70s is like the creepiest aesthetic that ever ever existed. It's just like what were people doing with their hair and their clothes in that decade? Because it just looks horrifying.
Yeah, and
I
I
don't know
mean,
if they knew it then.
and as well, like this town is being terrorized by kids being kidnapped, and all the parents are like, just stay out late, we don't
Yeah.
care, go ahead, do whatever you need. Like if that was me now, I'd be like, you're staying in, you're not going out, and you never will until the grabber's been caught. But
Yeah, of course. I mean, there's a lot of similarities. I think it's almost like a direct nod or a tip of the hat to Stephen King's sort of books. And I don't
well,
mean just like in the sense that it's got balloons in it and it's got children being kidnapped. It's like with the father figure, it's the whole thing that made the book it so good and, and that story so powerful was because the kids were threatened by something that was chasing them and was hunting them down, just like the grabber is, and they can't even turn to their parents. Their parents should be their source of safety, and they're just as bad or they're just as big as a threat,
yeah.
and it makes it sort of like a sort of desperate, tense situation where you're watching a group of children that have absolutely nothing to help themselves but themselves, and yeah, and they definitely lean into that in this movie too, and yeah, I really appreciated that.
I think it's a really good way as well of being like, there's a reason, you know, incompetent parenting comes into it, and then also the kind of emotional maturity that Finney kind of takes when captured, and his kind of
Yeah,
slight rebellious side and his willingness to keep fighting. There's a reason for that, and it's because he's had to deal with so much from a young age that like the emotional maturity makes sense. But it's interesting that
yeah,
you mentioned Stephen King, because I also mentioned Stephen King in my Letterboxd review. I said it's like the best Stephen King adaptation that isn't a Stephen King adaptation in all the best ways. The film is actually based on a short story written by Joe Hill, who is
mhm.
the son of Stephen King.
The dots are connecting.
The dots are connecting, yeah. So it's very Stephen King vibes. But you know what? As much as maybe there's a little bit of like, oh well, that makes sense. Like, it doesn't matter. This film is so good. And it kind of builds up to this crescendo. And here we're definitely getting into spoilers, but in the final escape with Finney, and he uses every kind of thing that's been given to him throughout the course of the film, from phone calls with these dead children,
Yeah,
like giving him hints on how to escape. He uses all of them to overcome his attacker, even like the smallest ones, which you think wouldn't play into it. Like he digs a hole and finds a freezer at some point and stuff like that. But he's able to give like a steak to a dog to get out. Like I was, you know, I was like punching my fist in the air. I was like, this is so satisfying. As a viewer, I was like emotional due to just the fact that, we were finally having some catharsis with him escaping and getting to be with his sister again, because at the end of the day, they needed to protect each other. But also this kind of like, yeah, kill him, kill him, like take him down, take down the grabber. And it was like, it almost felt like an action movie hero moment. And I just had like
yeah,
this massive grin despite how dark it all was. I was really rooting for this kid, and I was very much emotionally invested. And I think that's why I kind of came out uh heavily positive on this film because I just I loved everything about it.
Nothing in the movie went wrong for me. Well, perhaps maybe the third act there was like in that escape scene. I thought the twist with the brother was a little bit on the hokey side. Maybe that's a little bit of that Blumhouse element coming into it. I'm
Mhm.
not sure. I was a little bit like, is that intentionally comical? It's a bit off tone here for a second. I don't know. How did you feel about that?
Which bit are you referring to?
When it's revealed that the when the brother discovers that it was his house the whole time and that Finney was under his basement, and then he's like, I knew you were under my basement. I'm gonna get some help, and then he gets the axe in the head, and it's just a little bit. I find that a little bit off tune.
Yeah, I think that character definitely is slightly jarring because he doesn't get introduced until later in the film.
Yeah,
Um, but I don't know whether there's hints to the fact that because I didn't know straight away that he was in the house that Finney was in. But yeah, I think maybe it's a bit of a because the end is very much about kind of pointing you in one direction and then being like, oh no, it's not that, it's not that. Because there's a
yeah,
moment where the police kind of raid the house, you think, oh, they're about to find him, and then again, it's not that, it's not that. You think, oh, maybe time has passed, has something happened? Like, uh, are we in two different timelines right now? Um, so I think maybe it was just part of the kind of trying to Peter audiences one way and then being like, ah, you thought it was going to happen like that. It's not going to happen like that. And then also just, I think, just to kind of show how menacing Ethan Hawke is because uh, we mainly just hear stories about how scary he is. Like he's killed these kids, he's killed them in horrible ways. This is how he's done it. This is why he's done it. But you never actually watch him harm Finney. He only attempts to later in the film. So maybe it was just a way of
yeah.
keeping the
In a
threat
way,
large and being like he's capable of killing you.
yeah. No, I thought it was terrific. I didn't have, like I said, I don't have any qualms with it. I just didn't feel as energized as you did. Like I said, it didn't. Nothing. Sort of was, sort of pervasive to me or anything like that. Nothing sort of got under my skin. I thought I was just watching a really competent, well-made movie that I enjoyed for about, for the duration of it. I just wish I felt as strongly as you did, and I was so excited for this movie. But I came out positive overall.
That's
I do
that.
like it.
Yeah, that's fair enough. I'm glad you enjoyed it. Yeah, obviously you didn't dislike it. I think maybe it just emotionally connected with me more on that day than usual. Who knows? But
Mhm.
yeah, no, I one of my favorite films of the year, and just add into that whole 2022 vibe. I think that is happening right now, where we are seeing some really good like studio films. You know,
Yeah,
like bigger films have had a bit of a moment this year where it seems to be some like competence behind the camera and some real effort to make something special when there's a bit more money involved rather than just splashy CGI. So yeah, I think it's very much the fight against the superhero blockbuster. But man, I'm enjoying it. But go on, tell me, give me something, Chris. Give me something. What you been watching?
well, I did. I took a really fun solo trip to the cinema to see Lightyear. Actually, the movie that the internet hates for
Oh
some
no,
for some reason.
two
But
girls kiss. Cinema is ruined.
well, I don't think it's that. Yeah, that was like the initial reason why everybody hated the movie, and then everybody then just decided that they actually just hated the movie. Um, I'm not in that camp, I'm afraid. I actually went to see it pretty like on the fence. I was ready to expect something that was going to be very mediocre because the reviews had sort of been sort of lukewarm towards it. But I came out like I really enjoyed it. What I saw in the trailers was something that just looked like a straight up sci-fi adventure movie, and that's exactly what I got here. I got a really satisfying origin story, some really great themes about sort of working hard, your work ethic, but also what's the substance to that? Why am I proving myself? Is it worth doing, or am I going to be appreciated for? And also just learning to not be a robot, and also connect with people around me, regardless if they're on my level or not. I thought some really great messages in the movie that were really well handled and not shoved in your face. And the kiss thing, man, is so blown out of proportion. It's not made a point of. It's more just like a thing in the background as that's treated as normal. So it's not, people can get on their high horse about box ticking or anything. Uh, Disney are guilty of the box ticking thing at times, but here it didn't feel it. It just felt natural, which is like how it should do, right?
Yeah, definitely. And even if it was a bigger thing, and even if Buzz was gay,
Yeah.
uh, we shouldn't give a shit at this point. So anybody moaning about the film for that, stop listening to the film angle. We don't want you as fans. Love is love.
Absolutely. 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 The, the thing that I think a lot of people are struggling with is that they're like, this is the worst Toy Story sequel ever. Well, I don't know what's wrong with people because it's not a Toy Story movie. I don't think it was ever promised to be a Toy Story movie. You just have to look at the poster or watch the trailer to kind of know what it is. It's a completely separate property, mind you. It's landed from the Toy Story universe, but it's advertised. The first opening reel of the movie, there's a credit that says, in 1995, a boy called Andy went to see a movie about his that became his favorite toy. This is that movie, and then that's all there is. And then you just watch a movie called Lightyear. I
Yeah,
mean, I don't think it's not. It's not. Am I being stupid? It's not rocket science, and people
I think there was
are
a
just
bit
like,
of
this isn't.
a bit
Yeah,
of confusion, but like not enough. Like I just understood that it wasn't Toy Story. For me, I really enjoyed the first trailer, and then I liked some of the the subsequent trailers didn't give me the emotional impact. You remember that first one that had like Spaceman playing and stuff like that? Sorry, Starman
yeah.
playing, and it was really good. And then I was like, oh, okay. The next trailers kind of made me go, it's still just like a bit of a spin-off Pixar film. Like I don't know. I will watch it, but I'm gonna wait for Disney Plus, and I don't know if that's really bad of me to say.
Um, I'm. I mean, I think I knowing you, Alex. I think you'd enjoy it. I think it's just a really easy movie to watch, and I think actually, I don't think it is B tier Pixar. I'm gonna actually champion this movie a little bit because I really enjoyed it. I thought it was really funny. I thought it was really touching. Probably one of the most gorgeous looking Pixar movies as well. And yeah, I'd be super happy to see another adventure with Buzz Lightyear again. Yeah, it was great. And I completely saw it as what it was and separated it from from the Toy Story universe. And yeah, I think if you do that, I think you'll be surprised what actually is a pretty decent film.
Yeah, I think when I do watch it, it will very much. I will very much go in and be like, I'm looking forward to this animated Pixar sci-fi film,
Yeah.
and kind of go from there.
So, yeah, there you have it. There's another sort of cinematic journey for the last couple of weeks of the big releases in cinemas and online streaming. Yeah, as I said, there's a couple of those movies you could check out on online. Definitely check out Pleasure on Mubi, and the rest are playing in cinemas at the moment. So, yeah, please go out and support your local cinemas because there's plenty to see at the minute. Just as long as it's not Jurassic World. Would you agree, Alex?
Yeah, I think if you're gonna spend your money in anything right now, go watch the Black Phone. And I know you very much rate Elvis, so it seems like that's worth your
Yeah.
money as well. Catch those before all the cinemas are taken up with Thor, Love and Thunder screenings.
Absolutely, absolutely. If you like this episode, please feel free to comment and like on our social media platform on Instagram at the Film Angle, and also listen to us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or pretty much anywhere where you get your podcast from. But for now, this is the Film Angle. I'm Chris.
And I'm Alex. Tell your friends and family about the podcast.
Yes, please. We appreciate every listener. Don't we, Alex?
Always, absolutely.
It's not like we check our listener statistics on a minute to minute basis, is it, Alex? At all?
Hello, new friends.
Bye, guys.
Goodbye.